Hey there, internet friends. Welcome to another episode of That Nerdy Site Show, a weekly, usually, podcast where the team members from That Nerdy Site get together, talk about our lives, and all of the nerdy things we love about them. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey, and I'm back once again after needing to take last week off. We have Cameron Abbott. How you doing, Cameron?
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
What's going on is in the time that we didn't spend recording last week, as well as the time I took off from work, I completely finished Dragon Age the Veilguard and have since lent you my copy.
Yes.
You've put some hours into it. So we're going to talk Dragon Age the Veilguard. I'll give probably my overall review, but we're going to be very spoiler-free in this because Cam's only a few hours in. So that's going to be kind of the first topic. And then we both got sucked into Pokemon TCG Pocket, the new mobile app Pokemon card game. So we'll talk that. I would have talked about Neva on last week's episode because I played that a couple weeks ago. So I will cover my thoughts on that here. And then if we have some time left over before we need to kind of wrap up and get ready for some D&D tonight, Cameron has finished the Wheel of Time series. So he'll give some thoughts on that and the novelty of finishing that some 10 years after he started it. So that's what we have to look forward to in today's episode. If you like what you hear, please remember to like, subscribe, rate, review, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. So yes, diving into Dragon Age the Veilguard first. I want to pick your brain, Cam, because last week or last time we recorded a couple weeks ago, this was very much like, you're going to sit this one out. You don't really care. You're not going to dive into Dragon Age. And then we talked about it for 15, 20 minutes before we recorded this week's That D Plus show about John Williams. And I had finished the game, was kind of talking through here are some of my thoughts, and here's probably what I'll talk about on the podcast. And was it that conversation that switched it for you, or was it just, well, Trevor's offering to let me borrow his copy, and I don't have anything else to play, so yeah, I'll just sit down and play Dragon Age Veilguard.
Little column A, little column B.
Okay.
Like both pretty much is kind of that answer. It was you talking to me about lore stuff. I was like, oh, I forgot how much I really, really, really love the lore of the Dragon Age. Mm-hmm.
That was very much, knowing that you were initially planning on sitting this one out, I found myself multiple times throughout my playing the game thinking I think Cameron would really enjoy what this game is doing and playing around with in terms of the lore of some of these factions that are known and have been introduced in years past, the locations we're visiting, certainly the history of Solus and the elven gods and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So you said about 10 hours in. What are you thinking so far before I give my thoughts and review and stuff?
Where I'm at right now with Veilguard is I will say, the moment-to-moment traversal gameplay. For full disclosure, I'm playing a mage. While playing a mage, I am swapping between two-handed staff and one-handed orb and knife. Mm-hmm. I will say the moment-to-moment gameplay of this is sucking me in.
Okay. The very action-heavy combat.
It's really not the combat itself. If it was just the combat, it wouldn't be sucking me in.
Okay.
There's a lot of the combat is very floaty. And oftentimes I am, and this is early in the game. I have so much. I'm not even level 20 yet. I just hit level 15, so I have not even unlocked my specialization yet.
Sure.
And I'm going Spellblade, because when I play mages, I've always gone with the Spell Knight subclass in previous games. Mm-hmm. And this time around, they're doing Spellblade instead, which is more of a DPS than kind of a DPS tankish hybrid.
Sure. For comparison, I played. I was an Elven rogue in the Antivan Crows.
Cool. Okay. Cool. I chose mage, Elven mage, because I was like, this is all. It's so much elf stuff. I was thinking about maybe doing dwarf. I liked that. My warden is alienage elf. Mm-hmm. My Dragon Age 2, obviously you're human. Dragon Age 3, I picked Kunari for my Inquisitor. Which, by the way, getting to redesign my Inquisitor this time around was tough because I have thoughts about how some stuff looks now. And then, but I'm like, you know what? If this is a elf-centric lore, elf-centric, like the elven gods are here. Like, I feel that. We're taking a lot of time in Minrathous with Intervinter. Okay, the Shadow Dragons was the deal with the Shadow Dragons, digging into the Shadow Dragons a little bit. I really like that they're the counterculture, kind of like insurgent, anti-slavery, like mage supremacy.
Is that the faction you chose?
I chose the Shadow Dragons.
So the other thing I'll say is before I lent you my copy, I had started through a second playthrough where I was playing a human warrior that was in the Shadow Dragons, and I picked that in part knowing where the story goes and wanting to see like how that plays compared to how my Antivan Crows playthrough played. But I like that just that as an element is like, oh, it gives you like an in with somebody in your party. You're going to have some sort of history or connection to people in your party. Even like in the Shadow Dragons, I know like Nev being the first party member you really get apart from Harding. She's a fellow Shadow Dragon from Minrathous, but like you've not crossed paths because it's a big city and you work in different parts of town or something like that. So I really enjoyed that.
One of the things I love about it is they established like you're like, and this is what I'll say, this is the best Origins system they've had since Origins. Like, it's obviously not going to like Origins is famous for the fact like 30 hours of that game is locked behind as a prologue for all the different like racial and like history origins you can pick from. This is a massive improvement from Inquisition. I would have liked what I liked is that they didn't tie it to your race so much as like they created factional origins for you to align with.
Yeah, and I like that. There's like a moment early on in the game when you're like kind of in your hub world in the lighthouse.
Yeah.
Where you're like setting up your room and you're like unpacking your things, and the 4 things you place around the room are basically the ties to your origin. There's like, okay, here's how I got connected with Varric. Here's my human or elf or Canary thing. Here's my faction thing, and here's my class thing, kind of thing. And you have your character kind of speak to those things. Real quick, did you pick, as I did, the Erika Ishii voice?
No, I'm male. I went man.
Oh, okay.
I was just like, I really liked the.
Disappointing, but
apologies.
No, that's fine. It's just it was very fun for me. Just constantly hearing Erika Ishii.
For sure. Here's the thing. I forgot Erika Ishii voiced the female one.
So each there's 2 masculine and 2
feminine voice. Yeah.
I chose. That's another thing you can also determine. Are you like
you can choose to be trans? It's super cool.
Yeah.
I love that. I love the idea of all of that. But what I really dug was they had a pitch. So if you liked the voice, but you didn't like how high pitched it was, you could turn on for the secondary pitch, which is lower pitch.
Yep.
And so I did that. I did masculine voice 1, like lower pitch.
Gotcha.
And there is just a very like swarthy kind of like, not swarthy, that's the wrong term to use. Suave, like a suave, like not suave, but like suave.
So I didn't pay too much attention to the voices because I knew going in I was going to pick Erika's voice. But I think what my understanding is like one of the male voice or one of the masculine voices is like British coded, one is American coded, and
I chose British coded always.
Yeah. So Erika is doing the like American coded version of the femme voice.
Gotcha.
So it was just fun. It's very much like, oh, I could see Erika saying these things in a Worlds Beyond Numbers campaign or in a D20 campaign.
Nice. Yeah.
And so it's just very fun, like having that voice come out of out of my character.
I had to go British version because it's Tevinter. Like it's like that kind of like British coded like speaking tone is like that's so imperial, like so Tevinter.
Sure.
The kind of like London heavy like dinner like Ferelden accent, the Frenchish. Orlesian accent, like this is one of the things I love about
Antivan Crows are very Spanish this time.
Yeah, Spanish Mediterranean coded, with their heavy accents. It's
because in terms of your party so far, you've gotten Nev, Harding, Lucanus, I presume.
Lucanus,
at
yes.
this point. Is that it? Is that all you've got? And Ballara.
And Ballara, yeah. I got all 4 of those. I'm working on my 5th right now. You let me know, hey, finish up some side stuff because you're getting to a point where like there's gonna be some like stuff cut off from you.
Yeah.
So good to note on that. Yeah, I've been doing, and this thing, my 10 hours has been actually a lot of side stuff. I thought I was not going to be interested in doing side stuff, but the introduction of side stuff this time around, like this is once again a leap above Inquisition for me. The side stuff being stuff that you go and do, and it's an actual mission. The fact that they've changed it from everything's kind of pseudo open world still, but instead of it being like it's a broad open world for you to like roam around in. It's like these are mission-based things you're taking on while you travel through like these little hub points.
It is wildly Destiny coded.
Super Destiny coded.
And I feel like I've seen other people been making that comparison. But yeah, that was the, like, especially in that first, the Arlethan Forest kind of area. It's like, okay, yeah, like here's the part of the map I can go to right out the gate. But now I'm doing a mission with Harding, and that unlocks this part of the map. And we go on a little path down there. There are still some that are like, oh, this is kind of outside of that like world. So there is still like a blend of here's like this other area that's still in the like Arlethan Forest area, but it's not somewhere you can just immediately find on that map.
I would actually say this is very Origins coded, like the way that Origins was built out, mapped out. Like you have these like specific hub areas.
I guess like for me, it's been so long since playing Origins that I just don't have that as like the immediate grab point compared to like Destiny or Destiny 2, where it's like, oh yeah, like we're just going to this part of the map and doing like a little thing on this path of the the Mars map or something like that.
And I should mention, I have beaten Dragon Age Origins with every Origin. Like I have played that game. I ran that game through. That is one of my top games of all time. I love Origins so much.
I played all of the Origins. I did not beat the game with each of those Origins.
Yeah, because like, and here's the thing: people are like, "Well, you could look up what the ending was on that." Yeah, but that's not the journey. The journey you go on with different characters, and like creating my own like internal mental backstory for each of them. One of the things I love about it is that Origins always have a history to them. This is why like I was sad about Inquisition so much, is that there's so little like history to the backstory other than a couple of dialogue options you kind of run through. And this is where they are impressing me the most, is my relationship with Nev. I have no idea what other people's relationship with her is like, because for me, because I saw people being like, I saw like right before I started playing, I saw something on like social media, not before I started playing, like before I started playing, before I took a break from social media, like earlier in the week, I saw somebody be like Nev, obviously, because she had like the way that her like relax wear looks like. In
terms of like who's the hottie?
Yeah, who's the hottie?
Who's the romance?
And like the moment I started talking to her, immediately this was a professional relationship, and like I thought, like I feel weird about the idea of romancing her because we are colleagues. Like we're like it's not okay for me to flirt with my coworker. I have a very like coworker friendship, like I would say the closest thing we've established, because I've done a couple missions with her, is she's like quote unquote work wife. Okay. Like she's like the emotional anchor friendship that I would have with work. And it's like, oh, we've never worked together because you're on intel and I'm on execution. Like we've been in different teams and now we're working together on this project. Like very business coded, especially when you go to headquarters and you're talking to like your your direct supervisor, and then like the CEO of the organization. Sure. And it's like, it's very like, I'm looking at this and I'm like, I don't know if it's just because like I've been unemployed and I miss working so much, but like it just feels weird. So the conversations you have with her with Shadow Dragon is very like this professional, like, and I see the flirty options, but it's like, no, if I have the option to be like Shadow Dragon, I'm going to Shadow Dragon it, because that's my origin. I want to see those cool dialogue moments. Sure. And they've just been super fun of like just slowly building a working like relationship with Nev, and versus Baldara. No, that is, I have been flirting with her so hard. Okay. Which is Belle. Yeah. I will be completely honest, and this is where a critique I come in, is like some of the writing's not the best.
That is a thing that I would argue BioWare has long since had an issue with. There are absolutely some great writing things, and there are some less great writing things.
Well, this is what's crazy is I just had a scene with Belle and Nev, where like the Wisps are like messing up Nev's office and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a really well written, beautiful scene between the three characters that are there, and it's just like it's a fun thing. And then sometimes those interactions are just not fun. They're not or interesting. They're like very like, how do you do, sir?
So yeah, I like that they're giving you a lot of variety.
Sure.
In that,
100%.
Especially like the conversations at the lighthouse. Like there are time sensitive conversations where it's like, hey, catch this conversation, or it's not going to be here when you come back.
That's what the clock, little watch thing. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, if you
I've been doing them, so I've been fine.
Good,
but I didn't know that was a time thing.
Yep. I looked at that like one of the first times I pulled it up. I was like, what does that mean? And I pulled up the legend of the thing. It's like time sensitive conversation versus like the yellow conversations are like, oh, that'll stick around for a while. You'll get exclamation points that are like, hey, they're giving you a quest kind of thing. But yeah, the time sensitive conversations sometimes are like, oh, it's just commenting and let's have a conversation about the mission we just did or something like that. And there are plenty of those where it's like, oh, that was like, 5 lines of dialogue that we had. And it was like, cool. Now I know a little bit more about you, but yeah, not the biggest thing to write home about. And then there are also things where it's like, okay, I can go, talk to the person and like press X to talk to them, and they say like one thing, and that's it, and that's that's our conversation or something like that.
Yeah, that's the one that I'm like, that one I'm not frustrated with. That one's just like fine. But then there are some where it's like, wait, we all just had a cutscene, and now you're like, but aren't you an abomination, Lucarian? Lucanus, aren't you an abomination? And it's like, Harding, we just went over this like 5 minutes ago, or like yesterday. Like you're asking that question now?
Yeah, I mean, well, so is that like you had Harding and Lucanus out in the world with you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some of that is just the banter, the mission banter isn't really, it's they will have like growth on their mission banter over the course of the game, but it doesn't always tie to things that may or may not have been discussed around the table or in the depending on like who was in other conversations. Yep. So yeah, there's like it's not doing the like, oh, so and so will remember that as much in those kinds of conversations. Yes. Is what I would say to that. It's fun. I did romance Nev in my playthrough.
Oh, I saw that relationship. Like, I can imagine that non-professional relationship that like I have with
especially, her. Especially, being an Antivan Crow and kind of coming in. It was just a fun, like...
The assassin and the detective?
Yeah, exactly. The assassin and the detective. Like, I loved going out and, like, playing detective and, like, us being detectives together and, like, me being the Watson to her Holmes kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a big thing for...
Was a very fun vibe when I would run around Minrathous with Nev.
It's interesting because when you're a Shadow Dragon, it feels much more like if Sherlock Holmes was in a buddy cop instead of, like, Holmes' assistant. It's like, I'm not assisting you. We're both ops in this org. So it's more like I'm trying to think, because like a good comparison, it would not be I almost said Taking Back. I was like, not Taking Back Sunday. What is it? It's Bruce Willis and Danny Glover. Lethal Weapon. I almost feels like it's not a Lethal Weapon because it's Old Dog, Young
Bruce
Dog.
Willis. It was Mel Gibson.
No, Mel Gibson. Sorry, my apologies. I've eliminated Mel Gibson.
No, I get why you would transpose that.
Yeah. It feels, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like a good buddy cop movie.
I mean, you could do Bruce Willis and Reginald Vell Johnson, or Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson from Die Hard 3.
I think that's actually probably no, because they both have to be kind of like. Well, the whole thing is neither of them are cops anyway.
Well,
she's like a private investigator who is
it's
also
Psych. It's Psych.
Oh, there you go. It's Psych. It's Psych 100%. It's Psych. Yes, because I'm now I'm the operative guy. Like I'm the actual execution guy. Go do this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. Also, just I won't say it, but finding out some corrupt officials and some missives. Where that guy showed up earlier and was a dick and was being obviously a corrupt official, but now we got the proof.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this stuff is building and I'm digging it and I'm loving that. And then at the same time, it's there's political like the Antivan crows and like the volatility between them and the quote unquote government of Antiva.
Yeah.
And just like going through and like who betrayed Lucaris, like the whole like kind of political mystery vibe going on with like during like the occupation of an army. Mm-hmm. Another thing I want to say, holy crap, I have had so much fun finding out about the Antum Rebellion.
Okay.
Because I haven't read the books that between Inquisition and Veilguard, so I did not know about the Antum Rebellion. Antum Rebellion, very interesting. I'm very, very curious because for anybody who doesn't know, in canon, Sten is the Arishok now. Sten from Dragon Age Origins is the Arishok, and the Antum Rebellion is being led by somebody who's supposed to be his advisor, but who has since rebelled. But it's not the Arish. We don't there's been no confirmation that the Arishok.
I didn't look at any of this lore stuff.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. I've always been a big fan of the Kunari and like the entire development of the Kunari as a thing. Spoilers for our D&D campaign. There is a group of people that are very Kunari coded. Or originally were much more Kunari coded than they ended up being in my actual campaign. Mm-hmm. But the idea of the Kunari being like, and I know that there's a character that comes up that is going to be because they are non-binary, they are I'm fascinated and can't wait to meet that character and like go through their story, because this kind of quote unquote solution to masculine feminine roles has always been neither are masculine or feminine, but if you do one, you are man, and if you do the other, you are woman. And it's not it's not gender based, it's not sex based, it's gender based. Like if you are born a woman in the Qun, but you are a great warrior, you're not a woman, you're a man in the Qunari. That's how their culture works, is you're recognized by your role in society, not by how you were born. And finding where you belong in society is a part of like government placement stuff.
I will be very curious your ultimate thoughts on Tosh, the character that you're referring to.
So I'm excited to meet them and get into that, because I saw some stuff on Greg talking about non-binary characters and like trans characters, and I can't wait to get into it. The thing about it is, this is interesting because, and this is another thing too, is that David Gator and the development team for Dragon Age Origins did not want to deal with modern world anti-LGBTQIA plus stuff back in like 2007, 2008, when they were developing Dragon Age Origins. And so they just said, hey, in Ferelden or in Thedas, the world, it's just seen as like, oh, okay. And then that became interesting Inquisition with Dorian's storyline, because Dorian is gay, but he's a Tevinter Magister, so it means he's supposed to pass on his bloodline. He's part of these genetically, eugenic, like a eugenic bloodline, basically.
Yeah.
And he's supposed to carry that on, but he's gay. And so he's a rebel because of that. And he's like, that's wrong. I should be able to marry who I want to marry and love who I want to love, not just because I can have children with them. And it was such a cool and unique look at like how an original thought was, we don't want to deal with homophobia and nonsense, so we're going to do it where it's like, it's just a thing that happens and people are like, that's different, and are okay with it. Versus in Inquisition later on, years later, they're like, how do we make a play on this? How do we turn this? Them doing the same thing, because when you meet Sten, if you're playing a female warden in Dragon Age Origins, Sten is like, I'm confused by you because you're a woman. Mm-hmm. And he's like, but you're a great warrior, so you can't be a woman. You have to be a man. And you're like, no, I'm a woman, Sten. And he goes, no. In the Qun, if you are a warrior, like, and so like those rigid like gender binary.
Yeah.
Now they're bringing Tosh in, and I'm really excited to see how they play into that, because, like I said, this is the same thing that we saw with Dorian in Inquisition. I can't wait to see the next turn on. Hey, and that's why these stories are cool and interesting. Mm-hmm. Like, anybody who says this is DEI has never played a Dragon Age game, period. Because those games, like Dragon Age has been queer since day one, period, flat out. Zevran, literally, super bi character. Second conversation you have with Zevran in your camp, he tells you outright, I would like to have sex with you. Mm-hmm. And you can be like, no, thank you, Zevran. And he goes, cool. Zevran. You hated Zevran, I know.
I did not like Zevran. Not because of that at all.
No.
Like,
no. He's coded to be like your least favorite character of all time.
Yeah, it was
like,
just like
knowing you and the characters you like and the characters you don't like. He is coded with everything you don't like about characters.
Yeah.
So like, I don't blame you.
But yeah, the characters in this, I enjoyed. I took my little notes in turn. Here's how I kind of describe each of the little characters from here. Nev, my noir detective ice mage. Balara, Dalish techno mage and Illuvian expert. Emric, who you've not met yet, is a very dapper necromancer in a very like full on Vincent Price.
The dude who looks like Vincent Price, but if he was made by Disney.
Yeah. He's very dapper, and he's got his little skeleton ward Manfred. Davrin, who you've not come across yet, but he's going to be your Grey Warden. Harding, your Inquisition scout from the last game, a tie to the last game that can help fill in some of the blanks. But also she gets kind of this awakening of like dwarf magic, which is unheard of kind of thing.
Oh, it's super cool. It's super cool.
Lucanus, who I named Demon Daddy Nepo Baby Crow.
Yeah, that works.
Yep, and
he is daddy coded for sure.
Oh yeah.
He's so daddy coded.
Yeah, has he been around and trying to do like all the cooking and stuff?
No, I just got him a tea set, and he has been taught, and he just made the pantry his bedroom.
Yeah.
Everybody's still getting the beginnings of being set up.
Gotcha.
Nobody's Nev and Bell. Nev and Bell have like fully like made this their office / home.
Yeah.
Or like workshop / office. Harding still has like only taken up like a corner, and then Luke has only taken up like the back end of that pantry.
Yeah.
But everybody's slowly kind of like rolling out of their little cubby areas to like take up more space. So I'm excited to get into the cooking with him.
Just for the fun of it, I will tell you, keep an eye out for like notes that you can read in the dining room area.
I picked up 2 notes there, and they are his daily regiments.
So the one I'm referring to is going to be less of a like, oh, I'm picking this up and it's adding something to the codex, and it's like a shopping list that like the party kind of builds on and changes over time.
That's awesome.
In terms of like what do we want to have for dinner night, because we all eat here kind of thing, and what's Lucanus going to cook, or do we need to get something special next time we're in Treviso, or that kind of stuff. So
that's sick. I'm digging that. Already I've been digging like I mentioned, the one with Nev and Bell is such a cool, fun thing, because it's also like it's an insight into Bell's life as somebody who is out in the wild a lot and not in society as much, and Nev, who lives in the dock part of town. Docktown is literally called Docktown.
Yep.
She lives in Docktown. Like that's where her livelihood is. That's where she grew up. Like that's part of her identity. And so these two very different kind of characters have like a very interesting connection over like newspapers basically.
Yeah.
So it's awesome.
And then you're gonna have your fun Dragon Hunter Canary in Tosh. I had a real fun time like with all the party members. I made a concerted effort to kind of keep switching up my party as the game progressed, so that like I'm building up the meter, the repertoire kind of thing with each of them. There are going to be like certain key moments where like, oh, you're like this quest is clearly going to increase from like a 1 to a 2 or a 2 to a 3 in terms of like their ranking and relationship with you, but just having them around and having them with you for other like non-faction quests, I tried to kind of level everybody up evenly in that regard, in part because that also factors into how many like skill points they get unlocked.
Yeah, that's the bigger thing for me, is like making sure I have a balance of them, so they also gear, like picking up gear for them.
Yeah.
Happens when they're in your party. So.
I was constantly just kind of like switching, and that also made for a fun time because it was giving me like different combinations of party banter. Part of me, like ultimately I got used to and got accustomed to the like 3-party crew or 3-person party very quickly. I missed a little bit not having kind of a fourth floater, like because if I'm going out as a rogue, I never went out with Lucanus, who is a rogue, and Harding, who is a rogue. Like that was never my party because I wasn't going to have all three of us be rogues out there. I liked trying to have a mix or a blend, but I would typically do like, I'll go out with a couple mages or I'll go out with a couple of warriors kind of thing. But the most commonly I would switch and do kind of different variations of me as the rogue, somebody else as the mage, and somebody else as the warrior. But so that I didn't, just completely leave Harding and Lucanus on the wayside, I would often go out with like, okay, it's gonna be two rogues and whatever pairs well with Harding in terms of like the detonation abilities and stuff like that.
I will say,
but
that
I was also
yeah.
the other thing I'm going to throw out there is I was playing on easy mode. I was not trying to like challenge myself with the combat or anything like that. So I was never having to get too in the weeds in terms of combat. So much so, this came up when I started my second playthrough as a warrior, and you mentioned it in terms of your playthrough as a mage, where you have like two different like combat styles.
Yeah.
I don't know if I had two different combat styles as a rogue because I never thought to check that.
Oh.
I was just always running around doing my double stabs, and I'm like, it like when that came up early on in my warrior playthrough, where it's like, yeah, you can have your great sword, or you can have a big old hammer kind of thing, and I was like, oh, that's right, that is a thing in this. I didn't check that at all as a rogue. I just kind of did whatever, like my base thing. I almost never use like the D-pad, which is what a lot of like the shortcut things will be kind of tied to. I was just never using that. And so I never thought to press down on the D-pad to see what other combat option opened up for my rogue. So that's a complete thing I just completely missed.
Yeah, Mage has kind of the classic Dragon Age stave combat, Dragon Age 2 and Inquisition stave combat. Not stick burst energy from Dragon Age Origins. The very much improved quasi melee range stave attacks that you got from those two games. That's back, which is great. What they've done this time though is they've introduced focus, like an orb, like a focus orb, and a knife in the offhand. And what that has become is you throw arcane markers on people, so your melee does more damage on them, but when you throw 3 on somebody and you hit them with your dagger after that, it causes an arcane bomb on them.
Yeah.
And so they explode. And so I unlocked recently, a thing where the combo is like square, 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 triangle. So I hit them 3 times with my thing, and then I throw my dagger, my knife in like a kind of like a spin to it, and it hits them and spins on them and blows them up and then returns back to me. And then we go back into it.
All of the different combat types have that kind of feel of like, okay, yeah, we're doing here. Oh, we've now unlocked the light, heavy combo, or the light, heavy, or that kind of stuff in terms of the combat. Like the big thing I'll throw out there in terms of like playing as the warrior, like as the rogue, I was often using my bow and arrow to do like ranged stuff. I imagine you're shooting off spells with a ranged thing.
So you have 2 things. You have either your stave will like launch projectiles further than your orb will, but you also have a concentrated stream of magic that you can shoot out by hitting like R2. And so doing that, like you just throw out like just a beam of magic that's like kind of like full on like Iron Man beam, where it's like quick shot, or you hold it and it's like a wave, and I Kamehameha my way around people.
Okay. As the warrior, the R2. So as the rogue, the R2 was like pulling back an arrow and launching it. As the warrior, you're Captain American your shield.
Sick.
And you can unlock an ability pretty early on that's basically like when it comes back to you, if you press triangle, you basically ricochet it back, and you can do that up to like 3 times. So
that's
you
sick.
Can like bounce it back off of the enemies in the battlefield.
Hey Trevor, I might need to play a second time through this game just to get into listen, the combat, my problem with the combat is that it's floaty, and it's not like, it's tactile enough that I'm never frustrated by it, but it's movement especially is, and maybe it's because I'm a mage and mages are a bit like, feels like there's a stutter to your movement as a mage, where like I unlocked my phase walk, so I can like phase out and the like people are attacking me, I can do a quick like dodge or like phase backwards or something, or like phase to like
I wonder if that is a mage specific
to
kind of
keep it
gameplay
balanced
thing. Just in terms of like, oh, maybe mage just feels more floaty, because I never really felt too floaty as a rogue.
Interesting. Okay.
Admit but again, like I don't want to dive too deep into combat just because I know I played it at the easy level and wasn't really like engaging with the game in that way.
That's fair.
But I mean, I definitely made the mistake of at level 20 taking on a level 42 enemy, and that was a fight, and I pulled through like by the skin of my teeth.
This is what I wanted to bring
up.
This is something that I really love about this game is it lets you. Inquisition punished you if you tried to do this too much.
Well, I mean, I was definitely punished. It was a hard ass fight for me, and I used every possible healing that I had.
I ran up to because I was like, oh well, I want to unlock more of the crossroads. It's like, oh, there's my quest in Trevanis. Treviso, thank you. I'm not going to get names right because I have just been not paying attention to them whatsoever. I'm just playing the game, which is. I will eventually like memorize them because I read the codexes all the time.
I mean, I'm very much the same kind. It's I have 50 hours of playing the game and going to Treviso
and
I
have 10.
Arlington Forest and stuff like that. Yeah, versus your 10. Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, but I ran up against it and all of a sudden an ogre bursts out. And I want to use this as a segue to talk about Darkspawn in just a moment. But the ogre bursting out and all of a sudden it's level 32. I'm level 11.
Yeah.
I beat that thing. It took so long. Like, listen, I'm 10 hours in. 2 hours of that is definitely me taking on fights that are too big for me.
Yeah.
But one of them I won, and when I won, I felt like I'm like, yes! It was like a Dark Souls moment almost, of like a Soulsborne game. Like,
did it?
Yes! I took on this impossible fight and I won.
Is it because a lot of those the very high level fights, there's going to be like a treasure chest afterwards that is like a red unique armor piece.
I didn't get that
or weapon.
No, I did. Yes, I did get that. Yes.
Yeah, like
it was not red for me.
It's red in terms of like the border in the way that like your starting stuff is like gray and then it goes up to green.
No, I did not get it. It was not red. It was blue for me.
Okay. So yeah, so blue is not going to be a unique item. That is like the blue ones are, you can level those up. You can build those.
Okay. So red is specifically
red
unique.
Is like, you're only going to get this, and you can like it should come with like all of its abilities unlocked. It's very much like this is like a lot of them are risk and reward type things where it's like, hey, you're going to get this, but like one was like you get 6 extra arrows, but the recharge time on them drops drastically or something like that. Or you only get 1 arrow, but it like flips the recharge level or does a lot of damage or something like that.
Gotcha. I have encountered one of those fights. That's the one fight I lost, and I was like, because I was level 12 taking on a level 35 boss, and it was just like not a good time because I was like, I got him down to he had like a quarter of his health left, and then he spawned 3 dudes who were mages, and I was just having to dodge. This is why I'm like, it's floaty, it's challenging because I was trying to dodge 4 dudes at once. Yeah, and it was very
and
not
so that's
okay.
where I started to circle back to in the conversation of like floaty as a rogue. I was pretty much just always there and like slashing and doing the melee things, so and occasionally like turning and like picking trying to pick off somebody with like my arrow who was a further away target kind of thing. But I was very much up in the swing of things, so I didn't feel floaty. If I needed to, I mean, you're a rogue, so you're dodge rolling and kind of and the rogue does get like a shadow step kind of thing where you bamf out of the way a little bit, but it did not feel floaty to me. So I think maybe that's a mage.
Might be.
Because I definitely noticed already in my brief time playing as a warrior a different feel. Like rogue is quick and like gets in, gets out kind of thing. Warrior is slower and heavier. Still not floaty, but like there is a weight to the movement of the warrior compared to the deftness of the rogue that I was feeling. So I imagine the mage being the one I haven't played and jumped in on. I imagine there's maybe some of it is tied to that's just how the mage plays compared to some of the other classes.
Yep. I want to talk about Darkspawn for a moment.
Sure.
I'm not a fan of the way the Darkspawn look with this new art style. I'm not big on it.
Okay.
It's and this is where I'm going to talk about the new art style in general.
Okay.
I've seen screenshots of Disney Starlight Valley or whatever it's called.
Disney Dreamlight Valley.
Yeah, Dreamlight Valley. This is like, it's a little off-putting how like kind of little cartoonish everybody is. And it has made the Darkspawn, which used to be like this like really scary, horrifying looking monsters, kind of goofy looking.
Okay.
That's it.
I mean, I didn't care. It didn't bother me. As somebody who played a lot of Dreamlight Valley, I can see what you're talking about, but I will also throw out there that Dreamlight Valley is like way less animated. It's like those that's like
true.
the model of these characters.
Yeah.
But these have way more like points of articulation.
Sure.
And
Sure.
and
I was just
action
talking style.
Yeah.
Just style. No, as far as like animation goes, I do get weirded out because sometimes the only thing that moves in a conversation are people's jaws. And it feels like I'm like, it's a little odd, but like it's fine. Like I'm not expecting like, crazy like facial motion capture from a BioWare game. Like that's not what I'm in for. Mm. What I will say is I love the diversity of models. I love that the cities feel like cities where they're just like chock full of people. Mm-hmm. It brings an atmosphere to the world. I like that when I was in Treviso, there was a bunch of people that a bunch of a bunch of street performers.
Yeah.
That I could like give money to. Then there's panhandlers in other cities. I like that. And I like that it says something about my rook that he stops and gives, like, he doesn't pay attention to any of the performers, but if there's a panhandler out there, he stops and gives him a coin. I'm like, there's something I like about, like, I'm defining his personality and his, like, beliefs. Mm-hmm. You're not performing for me. I'm not paying attention to your performance. I'm not paying you. But if you see somebody down on their luck, he's going to drop him a coin.
I gave to both far more than there was really any benefit to. It was very much like like the game's giving me that button prompt. Yeah, I'll do that button prompt as I'm running through the city and somebody else is kind of giving me the exposition for the mission we're on or we're heading on or something like that. And it was as an Antivan Crow, I was kind of doing a Robin Hood give, like I've got plenty of money that I've taken from the rich or taken from the Darkspawn or whatever I've killed. Here, you need it more than I do, kind of thing. Yep. I often gave, and for the performers, I was happy to give them to them too, as an artist or whatever. Sure.
This is something I like about it. I like the immersion of the world. I like the way that the cities are built out, that they feel like actual cities, that there are specific districts and stuff as you're moving through them, like. Oh, we're only going to be in one part of the city, but that part of the city is full of life, and I'm very happy about that. I think it's bringing to life the vision of Kirkwall in Dragon Age 2. Like really bringing that to life, the idea of like a living, bustling city that was like had technical limitations at the time, and so it was kind of like lambasted for it, but.
Yeah, I think the game has a good variety of those kinds of things. Like Arlethan Forest, one of the first places you go to where the veil jumpers are, there's not really a city to that. It's very much like, their camp is like one little spot on the map, but then there's like the wilds that you can kind of go in and explore, and you'll do, as the game progresses, you'll get a lot more little side quests to open up a lot more of that area. But it's not like a city center in the way that Treviso or Minrathous are, or Docktown.
I will say, lore-wise, going to Aerithel is really, really cool. Because for
Aerithon.
I said Aerithel. Sorry, Aerithon is very, very cool. Just because this is the
Arlethan Forest.
Arlethan Forest. Thank you, Arlethan Forest. Well, Arlethan is the ancient capital of Elven society before it fell and was destroyed by Tevinter. And so, getting into
and you see the ruins floating all over the place and stuff.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. It's one of my favorite things about about this game is getting to kind of like, and this is where the game is like really touching for me, and like I'm really engaging with it a lot, is the lore like the attitudes of lore as you're going around and you're exploring it, you're going through it, but it's like I'm going through the ruins of the capital city. Like this used to be like Minrathis one day, like, or it used to be like that, but now it's like this. And so I feel like it is an interesting dichotomy to look at, and really getting the feel of the fall of the Elven society that you hear Solus talk about all the time in Inquisition. This is the first time that you're actually like seeing it. Like this was a complex lived-in city, and now we're seeing like this is just the ruins of it. And it's a fascinating way of looking at it. I will say that like I'm just finding so much about this very interesting, and like it's the crossroads, the history of Solus and his rebellion, finding notes from the people who used to work for him, his agents from over time, over the vast thousands of years, including
in the crossroads. Have you done any of the Solus memory things?
Yes, I have done one of them, and then I was in the middle of one where I fought that big enemy guy, and he killed me.
Yeah, I think that might be the enemy that I was thinking of. That was the one that like I took on, was way under leveled for, but managed to get through again because I was playing on easy mode. Probably. So
there's a lot of interesting stuff going on with that, and it's like, oh, this is cool history. But I like that I was reading like there was a note from one of his early, like his first agents, who talked about how he thought Minthal would join them. And nobody else thought that. And how it was like very much like he had this hope, and now that's gone because, not spoilers, Minthal is dead. They killed her. That's what like, but it's like, oh, so he was rebelling before then. He was just being subvert about it. He doesn't openly rebel until after her death. And I'm like, there's interesting stuff. And or maybe there's more going on there that I haven't gotten into.
There's going to be a lot of Solus Mythal stuff that that you'll have to explore and enjoy. And the memory things that you're getting, because when you finish one of those memory things, you like unlock a little wolf statue thing.
Yeah.
At some point, like midway through the game, you'll kind of get like okay, now you can see what those tie to, and they're going to give you more Solus backstory and kind of that you can kind of play with and explore.
Yep. Yeah. I will say one of the best, no, I'll save it for whenever we do a spoiler cast, because some of the stuff that you find out about the Blight is the Blight has been kept in mystery through all the Dragon Age games, hidden behind the Chantry of Andraste's like religious mythos. And then in Inquisition, in DLC for Dragon Age 2, and then throughout Inquisition, we find out a lot of the religious mythos is peeled away as you learn more about Corypheus and you learn more about it. But we do find out that Corypheus and his cohorts thought they were going to see the Maker, and like an empty throne, a black, like the city was already black, like all this stuff that you find out about it, and that's been left in the air for me for years. And so getting early spoiler stuff, I'm not going to say it, but early spoiler stuff, you find out it's fascinating. It's fascinating to find out more about the Blight, more about like the origins of it. A lot of like the Blight's tied. We've always known the Blight had a tie to the Veil on some level, that it had like, and the Darkspawn are connected to that in some level. And because we find that out in Dragon Age Awakening, that they have a connection to the Veil. It's so fascinating to see so many answers coming out now. Like we're getting so many more answers, and that's probably my favorite thing about Veilguard is, oh, I'm getting the answers to these questions. I'm finding this out. I'm doing this. I want to do a second playthrough really badly because now I want to be a Grey Warden in my background, and then I want to see what that first interaction with the first Warden is like that I just played through. Because I'm like, I had a very confrontational situation with him because I was a Shadow Dragon operative, and there's that whole thing.
Same as Enantivan Crow. He was very much like, I don't believe anything you're saying.
Yeah.
you're filled with cutthroats and assassins. Yeah.
Oh, for me, he's like, you're an insurgent and you're a criminal.
Yeah.
And he's like, and I was like, well, hold up. I freed people. I did this. And he goes, destruction of property. Because I felt like it. Just like awesome moments with that. I was like, I'm digging this, but I'm really curious to like, if you're a warden, that's your commander.
Yeah.
So what's it like going to meet your boss?
In the because you've been in the Shadow Dragon's hideout,
Yes.
thus far. Have you
Viper and all of them? I've met them. I've
Okay.
met Dorian's counterpart.
Okay.
I really love what's going on with that. I going right, like as soon as I'm able to, I'm gonna like dig deeper into that. The Magisterium, getting to be into Vinter has been a joy.
I love because like that is where a lot of your, with the Shadow Dragon background, a lot of your specific like, oh, you have either you know these people or they know you or they know of you, or you can have those kind of choices. Versus, like if you're a Grey Warden talking to the First Warden, that interaction is going to be very different compared to the others that you're having.
Yep.
As an Antivan Crow, being in Treviso and talking to everybody in Treviso was a very different. Like,
I'm just really curious. Lucaris is like Lucanus is like Antivan Crow, like upper echelon.
As I said, like he's the Nepo baby. He's like the grandson of the First Crow,
the First Talon.
First Talon, yeah, thank you. And very much like her chosen successor kind of vibes to it.
Yeah, I've already picked up who the traitor is, by the way. It was easy to pick up.
It's not at all.
It's not hard to find.
Yeah, no, it's very like, well, if I know any kind of storytelling, I know who the traitor is.
If you've seen The Godfather,
you've introduced 4 characters here, and one of them mysteriously disappeared, in a critical moment or something like that. I think we know where this is going. Yeah, absolutely. But listen, I do like
your Fredo coded character.
The game does have places where it sets that up, but then it does subvert it. But yeah, that's a fun one where it's like, and you can. I appreciate, I don't know if you've gotten the dialogue choice yet, but like one of the dialogue choices I had pretty early on was like, I don't trust that guy. And it's like well before like Lucanus doesn't trust or like and that kind of stuff. But yeah.
I was like, I don't trust any of you Antivan Crows. Like I'll work with you. But like trusting you's
and so for me as an Antivan Crow, it was very much like the story for the Antivan Crows, I think if I recall, because I was playing my second run as a Shadow Dragon, similar in that like, oh, I did a mission, but I went off kilter and to do what I thought was right, and the group disavowed me because of it. So I'm still like that in spirit, but like I'm not formally an Antivan Crow, but I grew up and like all the Antivan Crows know me kind of thing. And I thought it was the same with the Shadow Dragon of like, I went off and did a thing, or I did a thing with Varric, and the Shadow Dragons kind of disowned me as a core member of the Shadow Dragons.
It's not a disownment. It's you're too hot right now. Let's get you out.
Sure, yeah.
And when things cool off, we'll bring you back in.
Okay, yeah.
It is very much that. It is, and it comes up with like when you come back to Manthrathis, and it's like you like the one with the it's about freeing people, like freeing slaves. Your particular mission was to do like that is a core part of the Shadow Dragons is freeing slaves.
Yeah.
So it's not that you did that; it's also that the way that you did that, like really threw political turmoil in for a key group of magisters because you outed them as a slave ring.
Yeah.
And so you bust that slave ring. The magisters in charge of that slave ring got busted for it. And that caused a lot of political blowback onto the Shadow Dragons. Yeah. Because all of a sudden these very powerful magisters know you and are after you and want you dead.
Yeah.
And so that's another thing too, is I've been running through Tevinter, and all of a sudden sometimes a dude will pop up and be like, clearly an assassin for one of the magisters. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that's cool. Like I dig that. I'm sure other guys would pop up for other reasons depending on your background.
There's similar kind of vibes in Antivan Crows and Treviso and stuff like that. Yeah.
So cool stuff embedded throughout. Like I'm really glad they took feedback from people about origin stuff in Inquisition to elevate it here.
And it's very much I appreciate that the game over the course of your conversations, your interactions with people of that faction or of like rival factions are interacting with you in a very specific way compared to like even if I'm not selecting the Antivan Crow option, people are still talking to me and like it's a known thing that I'm an Antivan Crow. But it's like, oh, if I pick the Antivan Crow option, it's about us connecting on the fact that I grew up here too, or I've been through this as well, and that kind of thing. And so I appreciate those moments. But yeah, there were some where it's like, I could say that, but here's the sentiment I actually want to
Yeah.
espouse in this moment. I appreciate that it's not the full, like it sticks with kind of what got introduced, I want to say, in like Dragon Age 2 of like, it's not full like Paragon Renegade kind of stuff. It is like, here's the, you know, the mind one, here's the very sympathetic one, here's the like, I want to fight, I'm pissed, and I want to fight somebody about this. Here's the sarcastic, snarky one.
This is where my big part of my problem was also is like, anytime I've chosen an aggressive vocal choice, like an aggressive choice, that's like the kind of like stern, like armored aggressive guy that's supposed to be kind of like the quote unquote like tough vocal choice, never been tough, never been like and I saw this on somebody's review of where they're like, I chose to tell the first warden to like, I like the diet, like the choice option has idiot in it, like shut up, you idiot. But you don't ever come off that like aggressive at him. You're like, and that's something I've noticed through a lot of the dialogue choices is it is very much not Paragon Renegade, like good guy, asshole choices. It's like swallows of like a Paragon to like quarterway to Renegade.
You're not a bad guy in this.
You're never like, making bad guy choices.
Yeah, you're never going to be eyes glowing red villain in this kind of thing.
To the point where I'm gotten annoyed where my rook constantly has his hand like doing a superhero pose. Because like I say something, I mean, like one time I chose like the nice guy, like the nice option.
I think that is just the default character. Like you're talking like this thing.
Yeah, this thing.
Yeah, my rook did that all the time too.
When I said something very like,
it's the BioWare turn of this game.
Yeah, that is so good on that. I will say that's for sure. Anytime I make like the nice choice, and I'm like I have my like hand like fists on my hips, I'm like this feels corny. Because of the way I'm standing. I said something that I didn't feel was like very like corny.
Yeah.
But the way that my voice delivered it and the fact that I'm in a superhero pose makes me feel like an asshole.
It's the that moment from Inside Out 2 of like, what do I do with my hands? What do I do with my hands? And then Ennui's like, there are pockets for a reason.
Yeah.
It's this game doesn't ever have that or the self-awareness that you're always standing like that. That's just how they made the default like kind of stance.
And this is my thing. It feels like the shepherd. It's the shepherd dance of this game.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? Why is like honestly there are scenes that I was in like one of the like romance scenes or like romance dialogue choices with Belle that I chose and like hands on my hips like that. I said something kind of like charming and then it like I'm like I like you look like an ass. Like you said something that you thought made you sound cool. But everything about your body language says you suck.
Yeah. I find like unintended humor in those moments charming. In the same way that I'm, you know, admittedly part of the problem in other areas of like, you know, sometimes the bugs in a Fallout or a Skyrim are hilarious. Like, do I wish that they didn't have bugs? Yeah. But sometimes they're funny.
Yeah.
And so this is very much like, I'm enjoying so much of the rest of this package that like, yes, I clock and notice that my character is doing the hands on hips pose a lot as just kind of their default. Like when we do a wide shot and cut to my character, they're in that pose. But because mine was an elven woman that had like long purple hair and like was sounding like Erika Ishii when
so
she's
you just
saying
recreated
all these things.
Erika Ishii in your game, right?
It was much more and this isn't a like when I finished the character creation I was like, oh, I've made my character Imogen from the Bell's Hells campaign. With the, you know, long elven pointy ears, but like that's the vibe she had the long like flowing purple hair or pink purple hair kind of thing. But yeah, it was like, I looked at it, I was like, oh, I've made Imogen, but with Erika Ishii's voice. And I also had like a scar down the face, which like I enjoyed.
The classic scar over the eye that doesn't actually mess up your eye.
Exactly. Just gave the character some extra flavor and like some extra battle hardened combat vibes.
Ooh, speaking of character customization, the tattoo customization in this game is next level. I love that you choose a set of tattoos. I was like, but I don't love some of these tattoos. And then I went in and I was able to fade some of them out completely. And I was like, Love it.
I do want to touch on this. So I don't typically dive into like. I love that this game has the transmogrification pretty early on unlocked, and you
like
can like
pretty much
you can swap out like, oh, here's the better gear, but I want it to look the way that this other piece of gear looked. I typically don't care too much about that, but this playing as Antivan Crow, I unlocked some sort of outfit that had like feathers like on the neck, shoulder.
So you're
kind
just
of thing.
like that all the
I was
time.
like, that is my vibe. Until later on, I got like one of the like high end Antivan Crow armors that was like, I think it's called the Invitation. It's like that, but with like just a deep V, and I was like, that is hot and has the feather vibe going on. But then also to counteract that, I went for so much of this game with the crow helmet, which is just like, it's like those racist crows from Dumbo, like, but as like the bill of a hat.
Yes.
It is that like cartoonishly long, and it's like, how does that help an assassin? What is the vibe going on there? But
I have unlocked that helmet. I know what you mean.
But but later on there are also like there were other like, oh, this is way more in the aesthetic and the vibe that I want, that still has like the crow vibe to it to show myself as Antivan Crow. But like I locked into that and just had fun with that. And I would check in over the course of the game to see like, have I found a thing that is a better fit for this? And there are a lot that I'm just like, I don't care about any of these.
There's
looks.
an insane amount of like just cosmetic customization stuff that you can buy from merchants and stuff.
Yeah.
So I went through like the menu of it and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so many. There's like 40 plus.
Yeah.
One thing I I unlocked pretty quickly was the Mass Effect stuff that they gave out.
So yeah, they that only like that basically came out on N7 Day. They basically released that patch. So I did not have that for my first playthrough. I also didn't have the pre-order bonus that I was supposed to have for my first playthrough because Best Buy didn't send me the code until after I finished the game.
Well, there you go.
But the pre-order bonus was basically like the classic Blood Dragon armor.
Oh, okay.
In honor of like the original Dragon Age Origins logo kind of thing. It was that vibe of like, each of your classes has that. So yeah, I threw that onto my warrior after I finally got the code.
Nice.
And it started that second playthrough.
Yeah, the Mass Effect one, the trench coat for it is like, for a Shadow Dragon, it fits that vibe so dang good.
Sure, yeah.
Especially because the only ones I have access to right now are like not that cool.
Yeah.
And also the one that I have that's kind of cool has like terrible clipping. With my dagger on my side.
I appreciate that the game calls out, hey, this might clip with some things.
Well, they do that for like your I'm looking at it and I'm like, well, it's not even like a cosmetic one. It's the actual like armor piece. Sure, I was like, this is weird. That shouldn't be what's going on with it. But anyway, I love the trench coat and I'm keeping with it. But the thing about it is the helmet that comes out for the Shadow Dragons fits with that thing. Yeah, and so it's very cool.
Oh, there's like if I ever do a Lords of Fortune playthrough, which is what Tosh is with, and they're kind of like the pirates. You can get like privateer hats and stuff like that, and really have like a pirate kind of vibe going for you.
See, I'm doing that for my rogue. That rogue playthrough I want to do. I want to do it like a pirate rogue swashbuckler.
Sure. The issue, or one of the issues I have, is that none of that carry like you. If you do like a new game, there's no new game plus, so nothing carries over. Sure. You just start from scratch all over again. So it's like, oh, the cool end game like gear that I had and really liked and would love to wear the rest or like the entire playthrough of a second run or something like that. Can't do. It's just not there for you. So I'm like, well, that's true.
That kind of sucks that it's not like account based that it's tied to. It's each like saved base. Yeah, that sucks.
But anyway,
I think we've talked enough about Dragon Age.
So one other thing I want to touch on, or before we wrap up, and I kind of discussed like final review thoughts on it. We talked about this a lot the other day. Very little carries over from the past rest of the Dragon Age games. You make like a few choices if you want to customize your Inquisitor at the beginning. When you're doing character creation, you can customize the look, class, gender, all that stuff of your Inquisitor.
Also, make sure you remember to change their name, because I didn't, and the name Charter is popping up for me, and it's weird as hell because I don't know who it's talking about for like 5 seconds before I realized that they're talking about the Inquisitor.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I didn't rename it. So it's like
in
it's
terms
Charter.
of like first name.
Yeah, first name.
Okay. Because
either that or there's a character charter that I have no idea who they are.
I only ever my Inquisitor was because in
I made a Kunari male, or like a masked Kunari, and so that might also like it's probably tied to that.
Yeah, I mean the name like having just played or replayed through Inquisition, my Inquisitor on that was a male, so they were Trevelyan was their like family name. I don't think you can change the first name on that because I don't think
I take it back. It's not. It's not that. Charter is a completely different character. I just Googled it because I was like, I might just be totally wrong. They're an Inquisition member who is a spy in Liliana's network.
There you go.
And she is actively featured in 1, 2, 3.
I think Harding
mentions
Harding has mentioned Charter a couple times.
Yep. Oh, so she's been in both. Oh, so she was in Trespasser. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, she is. Yeah, so that's interesting though because she's tied directly to Liliana, who could become Divine Victoria.
Yeah,
that's interesting. So, anyway, so she's very present in the books and comics. Of it.
So ultimately, like the choices that you carry over from any of the previous games is basically like, what does your Inquisitor look like? / what class were they? Who did they romance? And then the other two are from the Inquisition DLC of like, did the Chantry or did the Inquisition disband or did they join the Chantry? And did you vow to
kill Solus or
vengeance and kill Solus, or did you vow to try and redeem him? And that's it. Like so,
I went
nothing from Origins or Dragon Age 2 carries over.
Nothing from all your decisions that you make in Dragon Age Inquisition carry over.
The rest. And so because of that, this game feels very much like a fresh start while also giving some grander answers, as you touched on. But it also, because it's very clearly not trying to say, well, did you pick this or this from the previous game, it doesn't feel like a continuation as much as like a fresh start.
I will say Morrigan showing up, she shows up pretty early in the game and she's in some promo material, so it's not a spoiler.
Yeah.
Morrigan showing up has zero impact on like, because I'm like, I don't know who this Morrigan is because she's not my Morrigan. She's not the Morrigan that like my warden romanced and had a child with. That like, in Inquisition, because Dragon Age let you make those choices, Morrigan can be a very different kind of character because she can be a much more maternal, peaceful, like passive character when it comes to interacting with people, or she can still be like Dragon Age Origins kind of bitchy Morrigan.
Mm-hmm.
And so like these are because like one of my favorite conversations is Liliana and Morrigan in Inquisition having this conversation about like Liliana being like, "You've changed a lot," and Morrigan would be like, "No, I haven't," and she goes, you have, and like we know who helped you change and everything, and Morgan's like, well, I have like, it's that realization of like, oh, you used to be like a serious punk rocker who like settled down and got married and all this stuff, and it's like you've changed, you have to change over time, but this Morrigan showing up, I don't know who she is in this.
And as the game continues, it will give you a little bit more to at least flesh out or explain why this is a Morrigan that can be kind of any of those Morrigans and is just not really caring about any of those other things or discussing any of those other things. Part of it is also like
those things just don't matter to the story.
They don't matter to your Rook.
Yeah,
your Rook has no reason to ask, "Hey, Morrigan, what did you do during the Fifth Blight?" or any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's the thing that I think works for it though. In that favor is I don't know, Morgan. It's not Morgan showing up is not the pop that I have about it so much as she's here, but that doesn't mean anything to my Rook. Rook doesn't know who the hell she is, and Rook also doesn't have outside of Harding and Varric zero connection, and also Harding and Varric are recent acquaintances. They're not people that you've known for years. Like I had to get my guy is like, I had to get out of Tevinter because I was in hot water because a lot of Magisters wanted me dead. So I got picked, and Varric was somebody I made contact with on this job. So he picked me up for another job, and that job is chasing down Solus.
Yeah.
You're like, when the game starts, you're very early on in your working relationship with both Harding and Varric.
Yeah. So all this to say, Well, as a longtime player, and some of the things I love about a lot of the BioWare games is that those choices carry over. I think the Mass Effect series has always done it better anyway.
Yeah.
Because you're playing one Shepard through that series versus Dragon Age. You're in every Dragon Age game, you're playing a different character. You're like, none of your characters are the same from game to game. So that, like, this was very much, we talked about this the other night in terms of like, 30 years have passed or whatever it's been since the, Hero of Ferelden days of Dragon Age Origins. So yeah, it makes perfect sense that your character in this game isn't really connected to those past decisions or any of those other things that would have happened.
Your character could not have been born during, like, your character might not have lived through the Fifth Blight. Like, your character could be young enough that they were born after the Fifth Blight.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of, like, I'm okay with that ultimately from a, like, this is the story they wanted to tell, and so they've kind of made these choices moving forward. If they do a sequel to this, I will be disappointed if the choices that I make in this game don't carry over into like this feels like this should be a Mass Effect trilogy where this Rook should continue on into the next game and, like,
do you think he goes from Rook to Knight, then Knight to King or something?
Sure, there you go. Yeah.
I like the code name Rook, by the way.
I like that they call out very early on that it's like the chess piece, because I, in all the promotional stuff, just assumed it was like, oh, like they're the rookie on the team or something like that.
Oh,
so
interesting.
They've given the Rook,
moniker
in terms of that.
Yeah, I thought it was originally going to be the name, but then when I picked the name, I was like, well, it's Rook, and I'm like, he's Rook because you can move him forwards and sideways, but he doesn't, like, these off angles he doesn't move on.
But a very powerful piece on the board, as Varric says.
Can come up out of nowhere and really surprise you. Like, very cool name choice, but also gives you an indication of, like, you're not the Inquisitor.
Yeah.
You're not the Warden.
Yeah.
You're not Hawk.
Mm-hmm.
You are, well, Hawk. You're very much more like a character like Hawk, where, like, you're not the, quote, big, interesting person. You're a guy that nobody sees coming, and that's why you're needed.
Yeah. The other...
Because, quite literally... that's how you fuck up Solus's plan, is he doesn't see you coming. He's paying attention to Varric, and so he doesn't see you coming, very much like, I took this knight, shit, I just got hit by the Rook. Like, it's very much... also, shout out to the Rook also just being, like, a standard, like, pillar, and a standard pillar being the thing that falls on top of Solus and fucks up his ritual.
Sure.
I went punk rock. I chose Inquisition Disbanded and Hunting Down Solus.
There you go.
And I'm like... and so, like, when Varric was like, I gotta talk to him, I was hoping there would be a choice in the dialogue to be like, that was not the plan, Varric. Like, to be like, Inquisitor said kill him.
But exactly, that's your Inquisitor has made those calls. Varric is very much operating on Varric's terms.
Yep. And
while the Inquisitor is still doing their own thing.
Also love that Harding was the one that I left.
And I will say those choices, as the Inquisitor gets, like, integrated into the story over the course of the game a little bit more, like, those stories will at least be, like, pulled in and called out, and the Inquisitor themselves will speak to him. And so the other parallel I wanted to make, just in terms of, like, ultimately I'm okay with this character not knowing or really, like, the choice from the past, because you're in a wildly different land than Ferelden and Orlais. So yeah, all those things that happened in the first games were in the South, and the South is dealing with their own problems in this game, kind of thing, while you're up here in the North. But we don't even know if Alistair's still alive, or if he answered the calling yet, or if the calling is Steven still, like, because that was a side note, is that certain wardens were trying to fix the calling. Did they succeed? Like, there's some big questions still left up that I haven't gotten through this game yet. I don't know. I know I go to Weishaupt Tower at one point, because that was, like, that's something that I've seen in promotional material. But yeah, the parallel I was thinking was on
a promotional. Sorry, it's on the map when I go to the crossroads. I see Weishaupt is.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
there.
Sure.
So
in the same way that, like, some people were like, how we've made it to Uncharted 4, and this is the first time we're hearing about Nathan's brother. It's like, I made the parallel the other day when we were talking about the game of, like, it's 30 years past. If Luke Skywalker is the same character that he was at the end of Return of the Jedi 30 years later, that's not a character I'm particularly interested in, because, like, people change over, like, who I am now is not who I was when I was 9 years old. So
Nope.
like, why would I expect that to be the same?
I just turned
And so-
35. I'm not like I was when I was 5.
So yeah, it's the same kind of thing here of like, well, like, and also the Luke that we knew from the original trilogy is a Luke you knew for 6-7 hours of screen time. So the Nathan Drake that doesn't talk about Sam in the first 3 games is a Nathan Drake we are with for 3 very heightened adventures, where it makes perfect sense that this very traumatic thing with my brother from the past did not come up, and has been something that I've kept down and kept under wraps.
I don't know,
because
the
I
fact-
think he's dead, and I think I killed him.
Yeah.
So I feel bad about that and don't want to talk about it.
I was
So-
watching. I
so
read
it's very
somebody
much
say,
like I'm not so beaten up that like this doesn't speak to those other games. I think they could have maybe.
big
And
world
they, I mean,
choices.
they tried to. They very much called out like, hey, we didn't want to be tied down to having to do so many different options for those choices. But yeah, I think that like some flavor text or something of like, how did this game end versus this? You know, some of those I think would have been like,
some big
in terms of big overview things, because otherwise they just can't speak to it one way or the other, and it's just left what is the world state of this game? Oh well, no big deal.
I think for me, a couple of things that I would have like just off my checklist. They may show up later on. I don't know. They probably don't, since I didn't make a choice on them, and they're not important to the story, so they're not being pulled into it. One, whether the warden survived killing the archdemon in the 5th
Yeah,
flight.
I mean, it's again like, because you didn't make a choice on that, the game is not like giving you a here's the default world of those choices.
This is what I would have liked to have
It just
seen.
doesn't refer to those.
These are the things I would have liked to have seen, and this is kind of like my critique on it. Would have liked to seen like the fate of the hero Ferelden on some level, whether it's just the archdemon, did he survive or not? 2, if like, did Hawk kill Anders? 3, and then Inquisition. We got kind of the big ones, but the other ones I would say is like, because definitively what you choose in between mages and Templars defines what those factions will look like forevermore, for more or less.
And that's the thing. In Ferelden.
In the Ferelden Orlais.
Whereas Tevinter has a very different relationship between mages and the Templars. And so they don't care what your choice was there, because it doesn't really apply up here in the north.
I get that, but I just would have liked that to be like, this is the world state.
Yeah. Yep.
Even if it really quote unquote doesn't matter to your, because you can't be a Templar if you're Rook. Like Rook's, that's somewhat of the origins. The closest thing you are to a Templar is a Shadow Dragon, I guess, because they kind of act as a balance to the mages in the Magisterium. Like, very much different kind of relationship still, because one is not like, you know, policing and imprisoning the other. It makes sense. I get why they did it, and I agree. Like, it works. So far for me, I'm 10 hours in.
Yeah.
But those are things that like, I'm like, okay, cool. We have to have some consistency on that when we're gonna do that, because like, this is a new trilogy of games starring Rook, which I so far I dig the idea. Like, there are certain things that we know are quote unquote canon based off supplemental material.
And
One,
I don't think
Alistair's king and Sten is Arishok, for example.
Sure. To clarify, I don't think they've said anything in terms of like, oh, this is like the start of a new
Oh,
trilogy.
no. I was referencing your idea of that.
Gotcha, okay.
Sorry, I was not saying that's what they're gonna do. I was referencing your idea about that. Anyway, I think, a little disappointed in that, but at the same time, like you mentioned, doesn't really impact the story of what the game's trying to do.
Yeah. So. Ultimately, I find this game is very much influenced. This is the most I would say a Dragon Age game has been influenced by the Mass Effect series, in terms of like, at its surface, it is very Mass Effect 2 coded, of like, let's put a team together, and you know, maybe it's a suicide mission, maybe it's not, kind of thing. But it's very much, let's get a squad together and be very character focused on that squad while greater things are happening. But I will also say it has a lot of Mass Effect 1 to it, in terms of the stakes of the choices that you're making. Are very much like, oh, here's a choice where you're got to pick this or this, and whichever one you pick is going to drastically change the path of the rest of the game. as a result of that. And there's a few of those degree of choices in here. I didn't always agree with the choices. I think there are some that I'm like, well, no matter what I did, I'm not going to like some part of this outcome, versus like I can do everything right and everything's okay. I don't like that it doesn't give me that option. Like, I got the best possible ending in the game, and still there's a lot of devastation and stuff that happens as a result of that, and I didn't fully like that, but that is how they kind of get you sometimes in terms of like the big choices that you're making, or the who's gonna make it out of this alive kind of thing. But ultimately, I want to give. I think I'm falling on, and this might. I'll be curious to see if like my thoughts on the game grow and change as like or over time, because I've already found myself like waking up and thinking about like a thing that happened in the game, or a choice that was made, and thinking like, oh, it's cool that like that stuck with me, or that's living with me. And even talking with you, who is much more lore focused than certainly I am in regards to this, like I wonder if right now I'm sitting at like an 8.5. I think this is a great game. I have a lot of fun with it. Doesn't quite reach amazing, but I think there are maybe some amazing elements in it. But over time and having somebody to bounce like, wasn't it cool when this happened? I'm especially interested to talk to you when you're another like 10 hours in after some of these changes happen, and just to hear what kind of changes you make versus the choices I made or something like that, to see how like our different versions of the story play out. Because I think that's a lot of the fun of these kinds of games, is how wildly different our stories might be, even if we are kind of filling in the same coloring book. What colors did you choose versus what colors did I choose is, I think, a lot of fun. So, yeah, I'm sitting at 8.5, but I could see it going up to a 9, or if talking with you and you're like, oh, actually, like this was a problem and this was a problem and this was a problem, and yeah, maybe they weren't problems that I thought of initially. It might, but like, oh, I fully agree and see that. It's an 8.5, but could go up, could go down as I continue to sit with this game a little bit, I think. Yep. But yeah, overall, had a very fun time with it. It was, I took the time off, and even though I didn't get the game launch day, because Best Buy fucked me on that too, starting the game on like the Friday and then just playing through it so much over the weekend. Again, I finished it in about 52 hours, I think is what my total game time was. And I didn't even think the fact that I was rushing through it so quickly meant that I would be like, in the running for a, top spot on PSN profiles. But as of recording, I'm the 31st platinum for the game. So I'm in the top 50. It was like 29th or something when I popped it, and then a couple people popped their trophies and had popped it like before and just synced up. So the fact that I'm like still at 31 here a week on, I'm pretty sure I'm safe in there. I certainly don't think I'm going to get dropped into the top 50. But yeah, just the fact that like I raced through the game that quickly and got the platinum, and like I finished the game and there were only a couple trophies that I needed. So I basically just reloaded like a save before the end game kind of kicks off, and was able to do the cleanup that I needed. But I had fortunately, because I wasn't like following a guide or anything like that, but I had fortunately done all of the potentially missable things already. So yeah, I didn't, because I did everything. I did all the side quests. I did everything I could, and I was very thorough as I was going through. Okay, before I do the next main quest, let me do all of the side quests. Let me do all the faction things I can do.
I'm doing that right now.
Companion quests I can do, and then let me go and talk to Solus or do whatever I need to do to talk to kick off the next like story beats of the quest. And so yeah, I was very diligent about doing that. And I would constantly also pop open the open world map, and shout out to the fast travel in this game. I loved that. Like I still often would like go through the crossroads, especially earlier on before I like fully done everything in the crossroads, just because there are things changing and characters popping up in the crossroads, or like little quests and stuff that you can get in the crossroads. But I especially like late in the game, or when you are just like, okay, before I do this next story quest, let me pull up the map and just kind of hover over each of the other towns and see. I love that it's like, there are quests available. It will just say that, and it'll tell you that, and you go into that area and you can fast travel to whoever's closest to the beacon or whatever. So yeah, I had a great time with that.
The only fast travel I think that has been, the only thing missing I think is like the way that Metaphor does the fast travel to your companion social links. I wish that was the thing. Like I could just go to a menu, go to Bell, instead of running through the lighthouse through like the same like 8 buildings.
Yeah. The lack of fast travel in the lighthouse is certainly a like, oh, that's a missing opportunity. Yeah.
Especially because I keep thinking about like, I'm like, well, I can just walk to the platform in the middle of the staircase and then just like go over. But then I like drop and almost fall, and then I grab onto it, and traversal is wonky a little bit, but like weird grabs when it shouldn't be a grab, but it turned into a grab anyway.
Shout out to Rihanna Manuel Pena, who pointed this out, and I was like, oh yeah, that totally happened to me all the time. The fact that like the interact action and the jump action are on the same thing. I constantly go off the beaten path to go grab a treasure here, and I go to push the grab treasure button and end up jumping over it and falling off a cliff. I've not
run into that. I've run into, I keep leaping past the thing I'm trying to interact with because I'm hitting X too quickly. Yeah. And I'm like, it's prompted, it's up there, and I hit it, and it's like, oh no, you hit it too fast though. You didn't let it fully load. Yeah. And I'm like, don't penalize me for this. This is terrible.
And so that's what I'm saying. I did the same thing, but
But you jumped off cliffs.
It happened enough to me in Arlothan Forest, where there's like, oh, if you there's a cliff below you and you will just fall over and need to like reload.
Mine is the rocks in Arlothan. I keep jumping between rocks, and like when I'm trying to interact with like a ladder or something. Yeah. And it's like, no, you meant to jump. It's like, no, I did not. I meant to climb the ladder. Yep. That's happened to me already. Anyway, pretty frustrating, but anyway.
Yeah, little minor pet peeve kind of things like that. But overall, I had a great time with Dragon Age, the Veilguard. I'm still so ingrained that half the time I talk about the game, I say Inquisition just because I'm so more used to that name compared to the Veilguard. That like even when I went to Google the thumbnail for this episode, I typed Dragon Age Inquisition. I was like, that's the wrong thumbnail. Oh, I typed the wrong thing. So yeah. But I'm glad you are giving a shot, and look forward to continuing to chat with you about this game as your thoughts on it continue to evolve. So let's take a sharp left turn into mobile land. After an hour and a half of talking Dragon Age: The Veilguard, where we've both been playing Pokemon, the card game Pocket, the new mobile app that dropped. That is basically Pokemon trading card game, but on phones. So what are your thoughts on this one so far, Cam? What you thinking? How you feeling about the game?
I'm loving it. I'm having such a great time with it, whether it's opening packs, whether it's doing the events. Like right now there's a PvP event that I'm doing where I'm trying to get 45 wins.
I'm trying to get that emblem.
Yep, trying to get that emblem.
I have not bothered. Do not care.
It has been incredibly fun seeing the way other people have put together decks and like deck strats that they've been using. Mm-hmm. Very cool.
I don't care about the meta, but like I hear, the meta is like a Mewtwo and Gardevoir deck. So I can build that deck. Let me see what it's like.
I've been running that deck. I run that with Gengar, and it's a good time, man. I'm having a good time.
I was like, okay, I get why this is the meta. I've also they're also like I'm not doing the PvP stuff, but I do the PvE against the enemies. I've definitely had that deck and still gotten my clock cleaned by a Charizard that's doing 200 damage to me and just killing my Mewtwo's or whatever. So, Yep. Sorry, I'm doing a wonder pick. You mentioned earlier that you had one of those wonder picks that was like 4 Chanseys and a Meowth in the limited time event. I'm doing that one right now to see if I get the Meowth as well, or if I get one of the Chanseys. And nope, I got a Chansey.
That's fair. I will say this. I don't believe that the positions actually matter in Wonder Picks. I don't believe it. I think that when you select your Wonder Pick, it automatically is going to give you whatever card you're going to get. And it just randomly shows you some stuff to make you think that you had a choice in it.
I don't believe that's the case because legally, the game is disclosing their odds all over the place because they legally need to do that. So, no, I'm guessing like it does the shuffle and plops down those cards, and then you pick.
I don't believe it.
I mean, okay, conspiracy theorist. You're one step away from QAnon. Cool. Enjoy, Cam.
Not really. Come on.
No, I know.
Yeah.
But like it's a slippery slope.
All of a sudden, you're like, I think the world's flat might be flat too.
I say this to also counteract the people who are like, no, but really, like the bent pack theory is like, no, it's not. Like they legally couldn't do that.
Well, that's dumb.
Like they tell you, no, here are the odds of like what you're picking. So the people that are showing
that are interacting with the
crazy odds or whatever,
yeah, the people who think that the pack that you choose in the merry-go-round of packs matter, it doesn't, because you can literally skip that phase and it gives you the same pack you would get no matter what.
Yeah.
What I will tell you is, you got some good stuff in there if it has a little sparkle come out of the pack when you open it.
Yeah, and you can like hold and kind of like before you start like flipping through the cards, you can like rotate and you can see like what the last you can see, is the last one, got a little different coloration to it, or is it, the boring ass gray? Yeah, I'm very much enjoying it, just kind of like the card collector aspect of it, and I enjoy going in and doing the battling against the like PvE stuff. I don't really have an interest in doing the verses against other people, just because I so often don't have a fun time with those kinds of interactions. But yeah, I've done on the solo combat stuff. Apart from the expert solo, I've beaten all the expert solo battles, but I've not done all of the challenges alongside them. So that's like the thing I'm working towards. But all the other challenges I've got done, including in the current Lapras event, I've finished the beat this 20 times thing. So I'll say on that front, the rewards for something like that should be better. Like once you've finished all of them, there should be a congratulations on doing all of the challenges reward. And it's disappointing that there isn't that kind of like little victory moment. But yeah, sitting here enjoying my go-to decks tend to be like my electric deck, where I have a couple of the Pikachu EXs that have some cool abilities to them.
You're running Thunder Rat. I respect it.
I finally got a Charizard, not a Charizard EX, but I finally got a Charizard, so I can have a good fire deck going. I've got the legendary birds. I've got some each of those.
I don't have Articuno. I don't have any of the others yet.
Yeah, Zapdos. I threw Zapdos in a deck to play around with him. Don't like Zapdos because it's it's a thunder something that does 100 damage, but it also does 30 damage to one of your, or 20 damage to one of your benched Pokemon.
Yep.
And I'm like, that's lame. I don't like that. It's not doing enough damage for it to be worthwhile for me to also be hurting one of my benched Pokemon. Unless I have a Wigglytuff in there that's just going to eat up the HP and still be fine.
Yep.
But yeah, I've enjoyed that the game gives you here's some deck recommendations. I like that you can
rental
auto build
decks.
stuff you want. Yeah, the rental decks are hey, here's a good strat to maybe play around with, and then using those as a jumping off point, being but I really like this card. I never use these guys, so let me pull them out of my deck and see what I can replace them with.
Yeah, that's what
a better fit
I
or
did
something.
with I call it my scary spooky deck, because it's I'm running Gardevoir, Mewtwo EX, and Gengar. A lot of my supplemental ones, I have Slowpoke and Slowbro. I'm running the Golem, the Ghost Golem guys. Running them. They have a high energy requirement for their move sets, but they're chunky and they do damage. The evolved one can do 100 times 2. So flip it coin, you can do anywhere from 0 to 200 damage.
Yeah.
I use them as tanks to build up so give me enough time to put out Gardevoir, and then I start just churning out energy.
Yeah.
onto all my Pokemon. I only have one neutral Pokemon, like one neutral energy Pokemon, and that's Kangaskhan, because that's 100 HP, 1 energy, 30 times 2, good tanking on that.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's mostly like running up Gengar, running up Mewtwo EX, and running up Gardevoir as quickly as possible, getting those guys beefed up.
Oh, hey, I do have a Gengar EX.
Gengar EX is fun. I'm trying right now to get Mewtwo EX, the special background animated one.
Sure.
I really want that one because I think it's really cool. I thought like, I got the cool EX Pokemon that's on the front, and it's like, oh no, that's the one that you want. You want this other one.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to run through to get that in my packs.
I've got the Pikachu one that is, I believe I saw, I think Mike Burgess, our friend over from IP, calling them like immersive.
Yeah.
The immersive cards. So yeah, that one. And I didn't notice until I went in and was playing with it afterwards. Because like when you get it and pull it, it does the cool animation of like, all right, we go into the card and let's see like the environment around here. I like that you can pull up that card in the game and it'll say like, tap and hold this, and you can just trigger that. Like you can do the animation on command. It's going to be the Pokemon part of this thumbnail for this episode is going to be that. It's going to be Dragon Age on one side and my flashy, very rare Pikachu card on the other.
Nice. I've just been loving it. It's been great. I will say this is better than playing the actual trading card game.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's no prize cards. The prize card feature is and has always been bad in my opinion. For people who don't know prizes, it's a mechanic on the regular game. Don't worry about it. It doesn't matter.
It's like, so I have my deck of very classic like OG Pokemon cards behind me on the video version, and like I played the original Pokemon card game with my sister a little bit, like when it first came out, because it was like I had gotten into Magic the Gathering from some friends, and I was kid at the right time for Pokemon stuff, so we and that was a thing. Like my sister didn't have any interest in playing Magic with me, but Pokemon she would play with me.
Yeah.
So and we would go. Like we lived right around here, where we're currently recording. Up at the pavilions, there was a Toys R Us, and she and I would like ride our bikes up to Toys R Us on like a Saturday morning, go buy some booster packs, and like get excited, see what cards we got, and then come back down. The feel of that, and I'm not so averse to like streaming and Twitch stuff that I'm not oblivious to the fact that like, that's still a very viable like thing that people like really love and suit, like all the people getting into like picking the booster packs. I think the booster pack in this is very disappointing compared to
100%,
where like the one of those cards is always going to be like a good hologram or some kind of like the last card in each of those packs is always going to be like a really good one. And I've pulled so many 5-card packs here where they're all just common 1-star things. I'm just like, that's so disappointing. I would love
after
that,
I spend real money on it. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's certainly also the pain point and problem here. But yeah, like I've done a couple, like especially where I'm at now, where I have, I'm just shy of like 220 unique cards identified. I'm lucky if I get like one new card every 5 packs, and I've done like a couple 10-pack pulls, and it's like, oh yeah, I got 2 new cards in that 10 packs. And so often it's like I have enough pack points that I could fill out some of my deck in the just by like buying the standalone cards or something like that. But there is like the joy and the fun of like picking up a pack. And at the same time, it can be really fun when you do, the 5th one is that really cool card.
Yeah.
I just wish that it always gave you something really good or some kind of holographic for that 5th card, as opposed to, well, sometimes it's going to also be a crappy card. That's very disappointing. And the odds, I've poured over the odds on the different decks to see like, well, this is the card I want, like where are my best chances of getting it? And it's very much like if you get a regular pack, because they have like a regular pack and a rare pack. In the rare pack, you're only going to get 0.05% of time. I've not gotten any rare packs. I saw our friend Belinda pulled a rare pack because she had like 5 holograms in one pull or something like that. But yeah, like in a regular pack, which you're going to get 99.95% of the time, the first 3 cards are always going to be some sort of like common generic thing, and then maybe you're going to get something on the 4th and something on the 5th, but they also have very common generic things there in the 4th and 5th cards. And so like that's disappointing. I wish there were a better like benefit or reward there. But it's still fun, still the random joy. And I do like the Wonder Pack system certainly more than you do in terms of like, oh, okay, I've got a couple banked up. Let me scroll through and see. Oh, like it's very much I'm going through and being like, okay, I have like all of these. I have all 5 of these cards. Oh, here's one where I could spend 1. Oh, actually, I'm going to actually just do this right now because it's 5 cards, but 3 of them, only 3 of them I already have. The ones I don't have in this deck that is a 1 charge to pull are an Ivysaur and a Lickitung. So let me see if I can snag either of those 2. Like the 2 out of 5 option for me is like, I feel like I might have a chance at that. And let's see. Nope, I pulled another Mincino. So
I just pulled a like alt art Gengar EX.
There you
so
go.
I'm actually pretty happy about that.
There you go. Exactly. And that's, I was telling you, like you're my only friend in the game thus far. But you pulled, you had like one of the alt art Dittos, in there. And I saw that and I was like, oh, that's cool. Let's see. I don't have a Ditto. Let me see if I can get that Ditto out of Cam's pack. And I did. I landed and picked that card. So I was like, oh, neat. That was a good use of my Wonder Pick stuff. So yeah, I'm enjoying it, but I am very much at that point where I'm very rarely getting new things added to my collection, which is the kind of thing that makes me bounce off this game pretty like. So I don't know how much longer I'll stick with it because I feel like I'm maybe not getting rewarded by the more I play it if I'm just getting more and more of the same old stuff. And like the thing that you can do with like multiple packs is very much Marvel Snap inspired, I think, of like, oh, you can add flair to the card. You can like change the cards a little bit. But it like I think Marvel Snap does it way better in terms of like, oh, you're getting like different art as you like evolve the cards. This is just, oh, it's throwing like a thing on top of it. So like, oh, it's a lightning card. You can have it goes from sparkles to, okay, now you can throw lightning bolts on top of it. Or if you have like so many, you can like get higher level flair for the things, but how good are those compared to like what you might actually want to get out of it or something like that. So yeah,
see how cool it looks.
Nice, very nice. I think I might have that Gengar.
He's so cool. I love him.
Do I have that Gengar?
Gengar's one of my favorite Pokemon, and so
I do. Like when I pull a Gengar, I do think of you.
It's very between Snorlax and Gengar. I'm very. Those are my 2 like those Pokemon are Cameron coded for sure.
Yeah.
When I'm asleep, 100% I'm a Snorlax guy.
There's.
Yeah.
Was it that one?
Nope. That's my normal one. It's the gold rimmed one that I had. That there's no card border on it. It's borderless.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And so like there's no like around the text. There's nothing. It's just the image of Gengar.
Yeah, I don't think I have that one, but yeah. Oh, there's the Ditto that I pulled. From you.
That's a cool Ditto. I do love the alt art on a lot of these cards that they have. It is very, very cool. Very, very fun. I especially love that there's sets of them that if you unlock all of them, you get to see kind of like the story around it. There's like Snorlax and the Pokemon that are like Snorlax is like fallen asleep next to. That one.
You're talking about? Yeah. With the Bellsprout and the.
Yep. If you unlock all those Pokemon cards, it will, that are like the alt art ones, they will show you the scene. And it's very cool. They've done a lot of immersive things to make this different that feels good. I played the trading card game, like the previous version of the trading card game on mobile. Oh, you're going to do that?
I'm just going to play the feel free to keep talking.
Yeah.
I'm going to play the Pikachu one on
so cool.
on my phone here on the camera.
It's so cool. When
this popped up, I was like, holy shit, they can do this? This is really neat. Why aren't more of them doing this? And I was like, oh, I pulled a very, very rare one. Cool. Yep. It's like this because like there's only like one level rarer than this, and those are like the super EX ones where it's like, oh, like of 0.0013% chance or like something like that for the Pikachu, the Mewtwo, or the Charizard that are those cards. So
Yep. Really, really cool stuff. I'm super digging it. But I think that the biggest thing for it right now is when are they going to be putting out new packs? Because I think that is the stressor point right now. And I think that'll make or break the game is how quickly will they roll out packs? What will be their strategy with it? Because I think the struggle with the reason Marvel Snap I think works so well is because there's not a draw feature, there's not a pack feature on Marvel Snap. And so when they have the rotation in the store, it matters a lot. Because there's no random element. You have to choose and actively go get those cards. And how they roll in and how they do that will be determined by like the settings that they have there. I think this is going to be a make or break is how they roll out packs and what kind of Pokemon are going to be exclusive to the A1 series, which are what the 3 packs are right now. They're part of the A1 series. Mm-hmm. What does the A2 series look like? What does the A3 series look like? What Pokemon will be included in those ones? This has a lot of the original 150 one.
This has all the 100 original. Yeah. 150. There's, I don't know if you've seen this, but if you do manage to collect all of the 150 original ones, you'll unlock a Mew card.
Yeah,
but you have to get all 150 of the original ones, and I'm still well away from getting a good chunk of those. And
I think they said it would take 4 years if you were to do that.
Two years. Without
with free
playing
packs.
with the free packs and saving up the points. It's hard to really calculate that out because it's always going to be based on random chance and stuff. But yeah, with 2 years of daily play, you'll get enough of the pack points to be able to buy whatever cards you might not have otherwise or something like that. But yeah. And obviously that's a thing they are well aware of, and they're trying to prey on that as is the problem with these games. And so there's very much the I can easily see myself spending far too much more money on this than I already have, and so I am having to I specifically looked the other day, how much have I already spent on this? Okay, I'm not going to go buy more gold because I don't want to do that.
That happened to me yesterday when I did some retail therapy and bought some stuff. And it's I'm unemployed. I should not be spending this much money on anything, much less
a digital card game that has no actual tangible benefit in the real world. Apart from the endorphin hit that you get when you open those cards or whatever and get that really good pull that you wanted.
Yeah, but at the same time, I'm okay with my standard pulls, especially because the quick items that you pick up from doing just engaging with the game are enough that I can get an extra pack or two a day. I like that aspect of it. There's a lot of engagement that gets you the currency to refresh your pack rate.
Yeah.
That works really well. So I think they have a really good balance. It's just a matter of how they roll out new content that will, I think, make or break it. So.
Speaking of that, I think I have enough to pull a pack here live as we're recording. So which one should I go with? Should I go Charizard, Mewtwo, or Pikachu?
I would go with either Mewtwo or Charizard since you have the Pikachu pull already with the...
Yeah. All right. All right. So let's go ahead and pick the Charizard one. Okay. Pick my cards. Booster pack opening time. Yay! So yeah, I'm not going to bother caring about which of these I'm actually going to go with. So I'm just going to pick the one there, and let's go ahead and slice the card. So yeah, I was saying if we, do this. Well, I can see that the back one is there, a nice little holographic thing.
There you go. I didn't know that.
See, we got the execute there. We got a pincer. It's really weird doing this backwards and looking at it through just that Farfetch'd?
Yep, Farfetch'd. Okay. You're good on that. Blitzel.
Blitzel. Okay, and then who's my good one?
Ooh,
a nice alt card, Lapras, which is a new one for me. Yay! Excellent. So,
nice.
Yeah, I love that. Hooray! I the rare me getting a new card happened here right on.
It happened to both of us. I just didn't do mine showing the camera and everything.
Camera, yeah. Yep. Hooray! All right. And that's and I early on I was using the crap out of these kinds of Lapras cards of Hydro Pump, and then if you have a lot of extra water cards on it. It's one I need to definitely use more now that I have some Misty cards.
Oh yeah, Misty's
those
a beast
would rack the crap out, have the potential to. I also plenty of times will pull a Misty card and flip tails and not get any extra water.
A major meta strat right now is Moltres EX and Charizard EX, or just Charizard in general.
Yeah, because the Moltres is like you put
Flame
one thing
Dance.
on it, and
So Flame Dance, you activate it, you flip
three coins, and for every heads, you
add it to a benched fire Pokemon.
Yep.
It is crazy seeing people's strat like fall the fuck apart
by bad flips.
Yeah. And just like I win matches I shouldn't be winning because that happens. But then when it works for them, and all of a sudden I'm dealing with like a Charizard with like 8 energy attached to it, and I'm just like, well, I'm fucked.
Yeah. Well, I have no way of doing enough damage to them before they kill each of my Pokemon in turn. Yeah.
You can one-shot just about every single one of my Pokemon at this point. So good job.
Yeah, I think like I can't think of a single, because that Charizard for like whatever flamethrower attack it is does 200 damage, and I can't think of any Pokemon that has more than 200 HP. So maybe you can do it if you give them something that weakens that attack.
I think Wigglytuff EX has that much.
Maybe okay.
I think it might have 200.
Yeah. So it's like, that thing will one-shot any Pokemon. So wah wah wah. But still, lots of fun to be had in this game, and it is fun like mixing and matching and seeing what different strategies. I finally started playing around with, because like I wasn't too worried about it, especially as I'm doing solo stuff. But I was like, oh, that's right. The game lets you do like 2 different energy types, and like I think the thing that like triggered that for me was when I pulled a Dragonite that was like, oh, it requires a water and electric and then a couple colorless, and I was like, oh, that's right, I can do that. Right, yeah, you can do that.
I thought it was wild that they didn't include Dragon type energy to do that with. I'm like, that's crazy that you have them as Dragon type Pokemon cards, but you don't have them attached to Dragon energy. I was like, that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, like, even admittedly, like back when I played the trading card game, Metal Pokemon and Dark Pokemon weren't types yet. So so like I like. The memories that I have from the game are still like from the like, it was very magic coded, and there were 5 different energy types you could have, just like 5 different land types in Magic. So I like that, like, there is still that element, and they've had to put Pokemon to fit into those molds. But yeah, like that now that there are additional types like that, it's like, oh, it's interesting that those are kind of the different, the way this differs from the video games is always a fascinating element to it. So
Fist energy, Eye energy, Lightning Bolt energy, Fire energy, Green energy, like Leaf energy,
and Water energy.
Water energy. Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
So there's 6 of them, 6 of colors.
Right there. Let's see, Dex. There's more than that now, because
well, there's Dark, there's.
I guess Metal isn't an energy so much as just a type, right?
Well, there is metal energy in the trading card game, but not in this game, I don't believe.
Gotcha.
Because I believe all the metal Pokemon are running like normal energy for the most part.
Yeah, probably.
Dark is a full energy type though in this launch, which is pretty cool because poison Pokemon, it used to be poison Pokemon would fall into Eye energy, and now they fall into Dark energy, which is great.
I'm realizing, I can just do this. I can select the energy option. So yeah, the energy options are Grass, Fire, Water, Lightning, Psychic, Fighting, Darkness, and Metal.
So there is Metal type. Okay, never mind. I take it back.
There is Metal type.
Well, there you go.
Yep. But yeah, no Dragon. Even though you have Dragon type cards, no Dragon type energy.
That's a bit of an odd choice, but okay.
Yep. I'm realizing I had my phone up in front of my face.
I noticed that. I was like, I don't know when Trevor's going to catch that. But all right.
Whatever. I'm old. My eyes are getting bad anyway. So yeah, lots of fun with Pokemon, the card or trading card game Pocket. I'll be curious to see, also how the game continues to change and grow. I'm already surprised by how many little like events that they've done, be it the Wonder event that is like, hey, here's some chances to get Meowth and Chansey cards. Or the Lapras events for PvE stuff, the PvP stuff going on right now. I think that's the other reason that I like PvP just doesn't interest me is prior to this event, no rewards really for doing PvP stuff. And even the rewards from this event aren't enough to draw me into it.
It's for a badge, like a badge. Like basically they're doing it all like PvP is only no cards are related to PvP. It's just bragging rights.
Yeah.
And I want that 45 grand ribbon badge because I'm going to put that on it and strike and put the fear of God into anybody I play against.
Sure. But yeah, the on the Lapras event, for example, that's the only way I've gotten a Butterfree so far. So that was neat. Because I got they have 5 different cards you can get from the random promo packs. And I appreciate that you have a pretty good chance of getting one of those. I've only gotten one Butterfree of the 20 plus of those cards I've pulled. Weirdly, I've gotten way more of the Lapras EX from it.
Yeah. That's the one you're most likely going to get from it, which I like because
the Lapras EX one, I don't think they don't have the odds on that one, which says to me that the odds are equal and it's a 20% chance for each of the 5 cards. Because I've gotten 3 or 4 Laprases, I've gotten 7 or 8 Pikachus, Mankeys, and Clefairies.
I've only ever gotten Mankeys, Clefairies, and no, actually no, I don't think I got a Lapras EX from one of the packs for sure, but yeah.
Yeah.
Overall, great. I love the variety of it. I love that they're this is the thing. They're really doing great stuff. The only thing and this is going to take time for us to find out, is pack releases. When are we going to get new packs out of them? That's the only question that's up in the air. Otherwise, I think they're nailing it.
Yeah. I'll also be curious to see, especially as somebody who came from a lot of the Final Fantasy mobile games, when do they do, or because those are okay, yeah. I'm very disappointed that they haven't been doing some sort of celebration giveaway. Hey, we've 10 million people have downloaded the game, so here's free gold for everybody.
Yes, I'm disappointed in that as well.
Maybe Final Fantasy was just using that drug dealer free offer.
They 100% were,
on those kinds of things.
I want Nintendo sync to that level, please. Thank you.
To their credit, yeah, maybe that's why they're not doing it, because they also very much say in there when you are buying gold, they say you will be limited. You cannot use more than this amount of gold within a week or something like that.
Yeah, they're anti-whaling it, which is an interesting strategy
to some degree. Yeah,
yeah. It's a weird strategy. I've never seen anybody do it before. We'll see how it turns out. It's a real let's see how this one plays out, Cotton.
Yeah,
type moment.
Yeah. But there is also the element of this is a pay to win kind of game. Then if you are, the more money you put into it, even if you don't get the pulls you want, that's more booster points that you can have to get the pulls that you do want or something like that. So yeah, we'll see how it plays out. All right. And I'm sure we'll continue to chat about the game as we check in the weeks ahead. So we probably won't get to Wheel of Time at this point because we're about an hour
I've made peace with that an hour ago.
Yep, fair enough.
When we were barely through Dragon Age.
I will talk very briefly about Neva because it was already something I wasn't going to talk too extensively about.
Yeah.
I mentioned to you. So Neva, for those that don't know, this is the game from the team behind the game Greece or Gree, however you pronounce it, however you want to pronounce it. I don't know. It feels like it changes every time. Very beautiful art style, and the way I describe this game is every frame of this game could be a picture you could hang up on the wall. Absolutely stunning artwork in terms of that. That does not equate to a good gameplay experience for me. This is probably the biggest gap I've had between loving how this game looks and hating how this game feels. It on the grand scale of things, I would say gameplay wise, this probably ends up falling into mediocre to, if not bad territory. And for me, that very much was driven from going back to your comments on your concerns about the Dragon Age combat. Combat feels floaty / doesn't really have any impact or feel to it. It's just I feel like I'm slashing through and I don't know if I'm actually connecting with the enemy or not, or if I'm too far away from the hitbox to have done it. It's basically a platformer action, 2D platformer action game. You are running around as a little sword wielder, but you also have Neva, your little magical wolf / wolf with antlers companion creature who you can use as a projectile to latch on to and attack enemies, as well as use it for traversal and stuff like that. And the biggest issues I had with, in terms of did not like the combat because I couldn't tell if I was hitting things or what was or wasn't being a hit. but then also just the way the artistic vision of the game gets in the way of gameplay a lot of the time. I was playing on my, I'm very fortunate. I have a nice little 65-inch OLED TV that I bought many years ago at this point. But I'm playing on that in my room, and the game does a lot of that kind of like Shadow of the Colossus or like God of War 3, where it's like, we're going to pan so far out that your character actually takes up very, very small real estate on the screen. So when my character is taking up like 1 inch of real estate, but I'm also expected to be like fighting or doing platforming on there, I can't see where the things are that I'm supposed to be fighting, or I can't, especially a lot of this game starts out very colorful and then gets into very like lots of different shades of white or different shades of gray and blacks and stuff like that. And so what starts out as, okay, you can tell that this is a climbable surface because it has little sprinkles of white on it against a green backdrop. It's like little dandelions or something like that. Those little dandelions are much harder to see when I'm looking at a snowy backdrop because we're in the winter time now or something like that. So I just could not visualize what I was like expected to visualize with this game. And so a lot of times the art of this game was getting in the way of the gameplay of the game and just making a very frustrating and bad experience for me. Beyond that, I wasn't particularly engrossed in the story and the characters or the relationship between you and your wolf companion. Like some of it feels very kind of like, well-trodden territory. And so just did not hit for me on that way. It's low on my overall game of the year list, but it's not the bottom of the list because, like I mentioned to you when we talked about it a couple weeks ago, like it takes big swings, and while those big swings miss for me, they don't miss on the level that like Star Wars Outlaws did.
Yep.
Where like Star Wars Outlaws should be hitting at a much higher rate, and even if I like give Star Wars Outlaws overall like a better score in terms of like overall ranking of the game, I still appreciate what this game did or tried to do, and I appreciate where it does succeed in like, yeah, this game does look beautiful. It's just not fun to play for me. Mm-hmm. Like this is the rare game that if I were the kind of person that like watched playthroughs of games, this is a game I would much rather watch a playthrough of than actually play myself. Just because I was not having, and again, I wasn't playing on like an excruciatingly difficulty or anything like that, but it was still like part of it was, I mean, even the element of your health bar is like 3 white stars, which again pop very nicely when contrasted against like a green backdrop early on in the game, or pinks and some more pastel like pinks and blues and stuff like that. But when the game progresses into everything's kind of a shade of gray, it's like, okay, I'm trying to see a little bit of a white star against a white-ish backdrop. I can't even see if I've been hit 1, 2, or 3 times. Oh, well, if I've been hit 3 times, I'm dead. So, okay, I know that. But I can't tell if I've been hit other times or if my health is back or something like that. Because the health kind of regenerates over time, or after you've done like a certain combo of attacks, you'll get like a health back, or just when you're out of combat, like health will come back up. But yeah, it's just too often the artistry and the artistic decisions to make this game very beautiful to look at got in the way of feeling through the game. So ended up being just it's up there in terms of like, I wish this team success, much like I did with like Tales of Kenzera Zhao, but the games did not hit for me, and just weren't as fun to play as I would have liked based on like what I saw initially and what maybe sold me on the game. But that said, a lot of other people really enjoyed the game far more than I did. I've seen, I think I'm very much an outlier in terms of like scoring it down in like the 5 range where I would put it, compared to a lot of like the 8s and 9s that I feel like I saw friends of ours reviewing the game at. So those are my thoughts on Neva. Something I wanted to like more than I did. But I very much kind of found myself just hate playing through it. It's not a long game. I finished it probably all in one night. And that's another thing. Like I did see Tim Geddes suggested like, hey, maybe this is a game you break up over like a few sessions of like an hour a piece kind of thing, rather than like playing it through all in one go. And maybe that would have changed my perception on it, but my fear is if I had done it that way, I wouldn't have come back. I would have just said, screw it, I'm just not going to finish this.
I was about to say that I think that might have been more of like the issue for you.
Yeah.
Because I think if you don't think the combat's good, and like the UI implementation is like flawed, that's not going to change if you've only been playing it 1 hour at a time.
Yeah. This was a game that I, hopped in and played between Metaphor Fantasio while I was waiting for Veilguard to come out. If I had not just played through the whole time, I would have just booted up Baldur's Gate and played that some more while waiting for Veilguard to come out. So, yeah. But those are my thoughts on Neva. If you played it and disagree, certainly let me know. All right. Well, I think, with us kind of foregoing the Wheel of Time chat so that you can do some prep for D&D, we will go ahead and wrap up this episode there. Thank you, Cam, for a very long and fun conversation with the Veilguard. I think, especially this would have been a very different podcast had you not jumped in and started out playing the Veilguard.
Very different podcast. Very shorter podcast, for sure.
But I do, if you end up, seeing it through, I look forward to sitting down and doing a spoiler cast with you on the Veilguard to see, what big choices we made and how that, interacted and changed our overall experience. I caught the tail end of Kind of Funny spoiler cast earlier in the week. I need to circle back to basically I caught the part of the spoiler cast where they were ranking the companions. So I want to catch the rest of their thing to hear like what their choices were and all the who they romanced and all that stuff. But yeah, this is very much one of those games I look forward to hearing how other people's stories played out. So yeah, we'll talk about that. I'm sure more when the time comes. All right. You can follow, or let's go around the metaphorical table with any plugs. You follow Cameron at Rev Cabot, and we'll call out here that a lot of our follow stuff is basically shifting over to Blue Sky.
Yep.
We're pretty much, I think, done with Twitter at this point. Might still, I will certainly keep mine and keep the That Nerdy Site pages like there, but they're pretty much going to be just to point people to Blue Sky because I'm not interested in supporting Elon Musk anymore with my engagement. Follow Cameron at RevCabot whatever it is on Blue Sky. But still, we're all still the same like main handles.
If you search for our handles the way that they are right now, you will find us.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can find me at RevCabot on social media sites. I'll reiterate what I kind of said at that D Plus show about like, hey, it's okay if you need to take time for yourself right now with how things are going. Always remember that, in case of emergency, secure your own mask, secure yourself before you try to like reach out for other people, like, or help other people. You like get a firm foundation under yourself before you start reaching out to people. And also don't overload yourself on reaching out to everybody all at once. That's another thing too. I've been seeing people say they've been getting burnt out on it. Like it's like there's too many people to contact, and so just take your time, because also talking about stuff can sometimes bring up feelings again where maybe you weren't as secure as you thought you were. That's happened to me. So always be on always make sure you're taking care of yourself, especially in the coming trying times.
Yeah. Echoing that sentiment, and Cameron and I were talking about this a little bit beforehand. I'm in a weird like. Historically, I'm not particularly proactive in like reaching out or communicating with people. And so I would feel very weird and too performative to be like actively reaching out to my friends and being like, hey, I'm sorry, the world sucks right now. Is there anything I can do to help or anything like that? Or like, how are you doing? What do you need? Because I'm not going to reach out to somebody out of the blue just because the world sucks now. It's just not how I typically engage with people. But if you are listening, and I like to hope that my friends know that I would be there for them if they need anything of me, if there's anything I can provide for them. That's the other thing, is I don't know what I can provide. Like, I don't know what kind of support and like peace of mind I can give or help with in these moments, apart from I'm certainly happy to be there as a ear to listen, or a shoulder to lean on, or anything like that. But going out there and like posting on social media of like, hey, I'm one of the good guys, is not what that's not the vibe I want to be sending out to the world. Well, I do want to be one of the good guys, but I'm just not going to like go out there and plaster feeds about it while people are sharing the hurt and feelings that they need to share and express. I don't want to clutter that up with anything that might come across as like, oh, look at me being the good guy and patting myself on the back. So that's a weird place I'm in for all of this. But
that's okay.
Especially so many of my friends who are in disenfranchised communities, my heart goes out to you, and I do hope that we're able to gather coalitions and keep up the good fights. In terms of the like shameless plug side of these kinds of end credits here, you can catch, as Cameron talked about, our D Plus show this week was on the music by John Williams, the new documentary that dropped on Disney Plus this last week. So fun, ended up being like a good, fun hour and a half long conversation where we just gushed about all of our love of the documentary and John Williams music over the years. And then this week we'll be doing, of course, Deadpool and Wolverine, as that comes to Disney Plus this week. So stay tuned for all of that. You follow all of us over at That Nerdy Site. Again, Blue Sky is probably the best place for us. I did actually create the Blue Sky account for us on following this week's That D Plus show, where we kind of talked about it. So you can follow us there, or you can go to thatnerdysite.com for the latest content from us. If you like what you heard, please remember to rate, review, like, subscribe, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. Thank you for listening. As always, stay nerdy and be good to each other.